The wrapping paper was exquisite. A brilliant golden color with a velvet red bow that looked like blood on gold. It felt light in my hands, yet I sensed something explosive inside. We were in the center of the grand ballroom at Palacio Dorado, under the light of 3 enormous crystal chandeliers. Hundreds of eyes were watching me. It was the 60th birthday of my mother-in-law, Carmen Castillo, a woman who had spent the last 5 years reminding me that Elena Vargas, daughter of a teacher and a mechanic, would never be enough for her son Alejandro Castillo, heir to the Grupo Castillo empire. Open it, darling, Carmen insisted with a smile that never reached her cold eyes. It's a special gift. I know you've been waiting for it. Even if you don't say so. It's the gift of freedom. Alejandro stood beside her with a glass of champagne in his hand, staring at the floor. He wouldn't look me in the eyes. In that moment I knew something terrible was about to happen. His cowardice was the omen of my pain. I untied the red bow. I carefully tore the golden paper, trying to maintain my composure while the flashes from the society photographers went off non-stop. I opened the white box. Inside there were no jewels, no watch, nothing of material value. There was a manila folder. I opened it to the first page. In bold black letters I read, "Petition for divorce." The air left my lungs. The sound of the orchestra in the background seemed to distort. "What is this?" I whispered, feeling tears sting my eyes. Carmen let out a crystalline and cruel laugh as she took the microphone from the stage. "Attention everyone," her voice boomed through the speakers. "My gift to my daughter-in-law is her freedom. Because my son Alejandro has finally come to his senses. The charade is over. Elena Vargas, you are dismissed from this family." The ballroom erupted in murmurs, suppressed laughter, and looks of pity and contempt. Carmen approached me and whispered in my ear, low enough for only me to hear, yet filled with enough venom to destroy me. "Sign the papers and get out. You gold digger, you leave with exactly what you came with. Nothing. The house, the money, the name, everything stays here. And don't worry about Alejandro. He already has someone to console him." I looked toward the entrance of the ballroom. There stood Isabella, Alejandro's ex-girlfriend, the perfect daughter-in-law Carmen had always wanted. She wore a red dress and smiled as if she had just won the lottery. In that instant, the pain transformed. My broken heart stopped bleeding and turned to stone. Carmen thought she was humiliating me. She thought I would run out crying. Defeated. She thought I was still the naive girl who entered this family 5 years ago. But Carmen had made a monumental miscalculation. She had forgotten who had been managing the creative finances of the company to save them from bankruptcy 3 years ago. She had forgotten whose name the real assets were under to evade taxes. Carmen had given me a divorce. I was about to give her hell. Before I tell you how I destroyed this family's ego in their own party and left them in total ruin, I need to ask you a very important favor. If you have ever been humiliated, if someone has ever tried to make you feel less than you are, give this video a strong like right now, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. What I am about to do is for all of us. Believe me, the satisfaction of this ending is something you need to see. To understand the magnitude of my revenge, you need to know how I got here. I met Alejandro Castillo in university. He was charming, though a bit dependent on his mother. I studied finance and corporate law. We fell in love, or so I believed. When we got married, Carmen opposed it from day one. "She is not from our class," she said. "She is after your money." What irony, because when we married, Grupo Castillo was in the red. Carmen had spent a fortune maintaining appearances at parties like this one and on trips to Paris, while the factories were falling apart. Alejandro begged me for help. "Elena, you are a genius with numbers. Save us. Mom doesn't know how bad it is." And for love, I did it. I worked entire nights. I restructured the debt, negotiated with suppliers, and most importantly, created a legal structure to protect the assets from imminent seizures. Carmen never thanked me. On the contrary, when the money started flowing again, she returned to her old habits of spending and humiliating me. "Elena, that dress is from last season. Don't embarrass us." "Elena, why haven't you gotten pregnant? Are you as barren as your original bank account?" I endured it all for Alejandro. But Alejandro never defended me. He was a puppet in his mother's hands. And now, here we were at her 60th birthday party. Carmen's master plan had reached its climax. Get rid of me now that the company was healthy and return her son to a high society woman. Back to the present moment. The ballroom, the divorce folder in my hands. I closed the folder, lifted my gaze, and wiped away a single tear that had escaped. "Are you throwing me out?" Carmen? I asked, my voice gaining strength. I am freeing you, darling, she said mockingly. Alejandro has already signed. All that's missing is your signature. Tomorrow morning I want you to take your things out of my house. Our house, Alejandro corrected weakly, but Carmen silenced him with a look. The family house, and you, Elena, are no longer family. I walked toward the microphone. Carmen tried to take it from me, but I held it firmly. May I say a few farewell words? I asked. I think after 5 years of service to this family, I deserve a toast. Carmen hesitated, but she saw the guests waiting for a response. Her ego wouldn't allow her to look scared. Make it quick, she said. Don't bore my guests with your poor girl's laments. I took the microphone, breathed deeply, looked at Alejandro who was still staring at his shoes, looked at Isabella the mistress who was toasting in the distance, and looked at Carmen, the architect of my misfortune. Good evening everyone, I said. My voice sounded firm, clear, without a trace of fear. Thank you for coming to celebrate the birthday of my ex-mother-in-law. There was a tense silence. Carmen has just given me the best gift I could have received. Freedom. She is right. For 5 years I have been a burden to this family. A burden who worked 18 hours a day auditing their books. A burden who negotiated with the banks so they wouldn't take this very mansion 3 years ago. Carmen stiffened. Shut up, she hissed. No, Carmen, now it's my turn. I raised my voice. All of you see the luxury. The champagne, the dresses, but what you don't know is that Grupo Castillo was technically bankrupt the day I married Alejandro. A murmur of shock ran through the room. The partners and investors present looked at each other. She's lying, Carmen shouted. Security, get this crazy woman out of here. Wait, I shouted, pulling a second document from my clutch bag. I always carried my insurance with me. It was a professional habit. Before they remove me, there is a small technical detail about the divorce that Carmen has forgotten. Or perhaps Alejandro never explained it to her because he was too busy being a coward. I looked at Alejandro. Did you tell her, Alejandro? Did you tell her what we signed in 2021 to save the company from the creditors? Alejandro turned pale as a sheet. He began to tremble. Mom, he stammered. What did you sign? Carmen asked, losing her smile for the first time. I opened the document in front of everyone. In 2021, to prevent the bank from seizing the main assets due to Carmen's poor management and excessive spending. I made a dramatic pause. Alejandro and Carmen transferred the legal ownership of the main mansion, the central factory, and the brand patents to an external holding company, a safe company. Carmen nodded nervously. Yes, a shell company. Everyone does that. So what? The problem, Carmen, I smiled, and it was a smile that froze the blood of those present, is that this holding company, Phoenix Investments, is not an anonymous shell company. It has a single administrator and owner of 100% of the shares. Carmen looked at Alejandro. Alejandro looked at me with pure terror. Tell them who owns Phoenix Investments. Alejandro, I ordered. He couldn't speak, so I said it. It's me. The silence in the ballroom was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. What? Carmen whispered. That's impossible. You're a gold digger. I put my savings, my credit, and my clean name when yours was on the blacklist of every bank. I legally bought your debts. Carmen, this house where we are standing is mine. The wine you are drinking is mine. The company you think you run is mine. That's robbery, Carmen screamed, lunging toward me, but Alejandro stopped her. It is not robbery, it is a contract, I said, showing the notarized signature, and there is a very interesting clause. The loyalty and good conduct clause. It states that if the Castillo family attempts to dissolve the marriage in bad faith or if infidelity or mistreatment is proven, the usufruct that allowed him to live in my properties and run my company is immediately revoked. I turned toward the divorce folder Carmen had given me, by delivering this divorce petition publicly and humiliating me in front of witnesses. You have just activated that clause, Carmen. I closed the folder with a sharp snap. So thank you for the gift. I accept the divorce, but there is a change of plans. I am not leaving the house tomorrow. I approached Carmen, invading her personal space. You are leaving now. Are you crazy? She shouted. This is my party. This is my house. Not anymore, I said coldly, and since I am no longer family, I no longer have to tolerate your insults. You have 1 hour to pack your personal belongings. And when I say personal, I mean what you bought with your own money, not with company money, because that would be embezzlement of funds if I send the audit I have ready to the authorities tomorrow morning if you do not cooperate. Carmen looked around for support, but her high society friends were already backing away. No one wanted to associate with a family in ruin and possible tax fraud. Isabella approached Alejandro. Alejandro, tell me this is a lie. Tell me he is still rich. Alejandro lowered his head, crying, I am an employee. Isabella, everything belongs to her. It always did. Isabella dropped Alejandro's hand as if it burned. You are a loser, she spat. You told me you were the owner. I'm leaving. Isabella ran out of the ballroom, her heels echoing on the marble, fleeing the sinking ship. I turned to the confused security guards. Gentlemen, I said, showing him the property deed on my phone. I am the legal owner of this property and the one who pays your salaries through Phoenix Investments. Please escort Mrs. Carmen and Mr. Alejandro to their rooms to pack their bags. They have 60 minutes, then escort them off my property. The head of security looked at Carmen, then at me. He nodded. Yes, Mrs. Elena. No, you can't do this to me. Carmen screamed as the guards politely surrounded her. I am a Castillo. You are a nobody. I am Elena Vargas, I said, the woman who saved your empire and whom you have just turned into your worst nightmare. While they carried away Carmen kicking and screaming insults, and Alejandro crying like a child, I stood alone in the center of the stage. The guests looked at me with a mixture of fear and respect. I took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter's tray. I apologize for the interruption, I said into the microphone. The party is over. Please leave the ballroom in an orderly manner. My legal team needs to do an inventory. I took a sip. It tasted like glory. It tasted like justice. That night, Carmen and Alejandro left the mansion with 3 suitcases each. They had to call a taxi because the company cars were also in my name and I forbade them from using them. In the following months, the fall was brutal. Carmen tried to sue me, but my contracts were ironclad. I had been the best student in my law graduating class. After all, besides, the threat of the tax audit kept her in check. She moved to a small apartment on the outskirts. Her friends stopped calling her when they learned she no longer had money to throw parties. Alejandro tried to come back to me. He sent flowers, letters, begged for forgiveness. He said his mother had forced him. But I knew the truth. A man who does not defend his wife does not deserve to be called a man. I fired him from the company. Now he works as a manager in a competitor's clothing store. And I sold the company 6 months later to an international conglomerate for an 8-figure sum. I sold the mansion. I didn't want to live among those ghosts. With the money I founded my own investment firm dedicated to helping women entrepreneurs protect their assets. Sometimes I think about that golden wrapping paper. It was the most painful gift I ever received, but also the most valuable. Carmen wanted to give me a sad ending. I decided to rewrite it and become the owner of my own story. The lesson is clear. Never underestimate the person who holds the foundations of your life. Because if you decide to strike her, the ceiling will fall on you. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.